Dr. Jason Ross is a renowned psychotherapist. Dr. Ross, welcome back to Live and I. Good to see you again. We saw that incredible exchange between a father and his son. Where do you begin to have this conversation out there? Because you want to make sure, you ease any concerns or fears that a child might have.
Absolutely. There's so much to think about in this, but the first thing is being mindful of your child's emotional development.
Okay.
This father gets it. I mean, what a great story to put up, all over. One of the things I want to point out is he's down at his son's height.
Okay.
He kneeled down. He's at eye level with him, which is really brilliant. He gets it emotionally. We want to look at, with small children like that, we want to really look at taking care of their emotional concerns. It's more about feelings than facts. Facts are for when the children are older and they have more information.
And he also was holding his son on his lap. He was kind of crouched down and had him right there. I also noticed the child led the conversation.
Absolutely.
Is that important?
Critical point. For most children, we want them to direct it as best as we can. Mm-hmm. This is a very bright child, to say
Because
the
they'll
least.
tell you what they're worried about and you don't need to bring up other things?
Exactly. You don't want to give too much detail. This father kept it more simple, which is the right way to go. We don't want to give them too much information, especially at a young age when they don't really know exactly what's going on. They just sort of knew something had happened.
Okay.
So we'd want to let them go. That way we can really assess what are their fears and concerns.
Right.
They may not be worried about what we're worried.
So, Doctor, for those who are not right there, obviously in Paris, France, but are still watching, but from a distance, what about keeping a child on his or her routine?
Absolutely. One of the most important factors is keeping a schedule. Anytime you're dealing with any trauma, adversity, or tragedy, you really want to maintain a routine. For small children, it's really important because it can distract them and it keeps them fulfilled. Because their minds can run a little bit, which is what we tend to see now with most children.
When my children were small and things like this happened, I just turned off the television, quite frankly, and I hid the newspaper. That's not realistic these days, is it?
It's much tougher to do with social media, obviously, now. What we want to do is have a little, if they're going to see it more than likely. Smaller children are less so, but we have to have that time where we're spending with them. It's that quality time where they can share their emotions and they can have a dialogue, and that's really one of the things that this story should bring out, is we can start having a dialogue with children even at an early age.
So if you get into middle school age, for instance, or 9, 10, that preteen, how do you handle that?
Preteens are a little tougher. We want to start to be able to delve into a little bit more of the facts. We also have to be aware that middle school children are less likely to potentially show their emotions. They tend not to want to talk. We all know, dealing with teenagers are less likely to talk. But we want to see where they're at. We want to keep mindful that we want to watch and be aware of what's going on with them. And we can open the dialogue, saying, what do you know about what's happened? I'd like to sit and talk with you for a little bit. And children who get to talk are going to feel a little bit more secure and trust their parents.
So is it still important to at least try to validate their feelings or reassure them, or how does that play into this?
Validation may be the cornerstone of parenting. And in these cases, if you validate their feelings, there's a tendency always to try to take away the feeling from the child. We want to avoid that at any cost.
Like when you say, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. You shouldn't feel that way.
Okay.
That's probably the antithesis of what we want to do. We want to really validate with our, saying, I understand how you feel. I can imagine that at times you're really frightful of this. Once they understand that you're really hearing them, they're going to be more likely to come to you with other things. And that's, again, this is just one of those times where it opens the dialogue.
But for that parent out there, Doctor, who feels, they want to be there, but just may not necessarily have the right words to say, what do you do?
You want to sit with them and start the dialogue very often by saying, do you know what's happening in the world? Did you hear about, you can literally say, do you know what happened in Paris? A child who is probably 7, 8 or older is going to know.
Right.
They're having school drills. So it's very simple. You can ask them what they went through in their day and simply say to them, what was it like going through? Were you scared? Did you have any thoughts going through you?
A parent would like to say, it won't happen here. It won't happen at your school. It won't happen in our neighborhood. We can't say that. So how do we handle that?
Being honest and realistic. Saying to a child that we don't think it's going to happen here. And obviously we know the odds are that it won't.
Right.
We want you to be aware. We want you to go through what you have to at school. And we also want you to talk about how you feel about it. You can reassure them. You can say, this happens in isolated areas. This has happened only X amount of times. But you want to get that dialogue, and you want to really assess how much do they know, how much are they really talking about their feelings? That's the simplest way to get
All
to
right,
start
have
the
that
talk.
conversation by all
Thank
means.
you.